First Contact and Misunderstanding. The sleek Galactic Council ship, Harmonic Convergence, glided silently through the inky void of space, its destination a small blue planet in an unremarkable spiral arm of the Milky Way. On the bridge, Ambassador Zixloria of the Aetherian Confederation stood motionless, her iridescent skin shimmering with anticipation. "Are you certain about this, Ambassador?" Captain Cretal asked, his tentacles twitching nervously. "The reports from our initial surveys are concerning." Zixloria's multifaceted eyes blinked in sequence. "We must not jump to conclusions, Captain. The Council has decided it's time to make official first contact with this species. They call themselves humans, and their world Earth." Cretal's skin rippled, a sign of unease in his species, but the planetary conditions alone. The gravity, the atmospheric pressure, the temperature fluctuations, not to mention the indigenous life forms. By any reasonable standard, this is a death world. The ambassador turned to face the view screen, where Earth grew steadily larger. "And yet, Captain, life flourishes there, including ascension species on the brink of interstellar travel. We must look beyond our preconceptions." As the Harmonic Convergence entered Earth's orbit, the ship's sensors came alive with data. Cretal's eyes widened as he processed the information. "Ambassador, I'm detecting thousands of artificial satellites, extensive terraforming of the planet's surface, and, by the cosmic void, they've already established a presence on their moon." Zixloria's tendrils curled in excitement. "Fascinating. It seems these humans are more advanced than we anticipated. Prepare the diplomatic pod. We'll make our descent to their primary governmental center." The landing was smooth, the cloaking technology of the Galactic Council ensuring their arrival went unnoticed by Earth's primitive detection systems. As the diplomatic team emerged from their pod in the heart of New York City, they were met with a cacophony of sounds, smells, and sights that overwhelmed their senses. Humans of all shapes, sizes, and colors bustled around them, most too preoccupied with their daily lives to notice the alien visitors. Those who did stop to stare seemed more curious than frightened. "Ambassador," whispered Cretal, "their biodiversity is remarkable. Are we certain they're all the same species?" Before Zixloria could respond, a group of humans in dark suits approached, led by a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair and piercing blue eyes. "Welcome to Earth," the woman said, her voice calm but tinged with awe. "I'm Secretary General Elena Rodriguez of the United Nations. We've been expecting you." Zixloria's translator implant worked flawlessly as she replied, "Greetings, Secretary General Rodriguez. I am Ambassador Zixloria of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and with an offer of friendship." As the two leaders shook hands, a gesture the Council team had studied extensively, a low rumble began to build. The ground trembled, and humans around them began to look skyward with expressions of fear. "What's happening?" Cretal asked, his tentacles coiling defensively. Rodriguez's face hardened. "I'm afraid our meeting will have to be postponed, Ambassador. That's a level 5 hurricane warning. We need to get you to safety immediately." As if on cue, the sky darkened ominously, and a howling wind whipped through the streets. Debris began to fly through the air, and the humans around them moved with practiced urgency towards shelter. "Hurricane." Zixloria's translator struggled with the term. "Is this some kind of weapon?" Rodriguez shook her head as she ushered the alien diplomats towards a reinforced bunker. "No, Ambassador. It's a natural weather phenomenon. Quite dangerous, but we're well prepared to handle it." As they hurried through the chaos of the evacuating city, Cretal leaned close to Zixloria. "Ambassador, I don't mean to alarm you, but I've just received a priority communication from the Harmonic Convergence. Our long-range sensors have detected an incoming solar flare of unprecedented magnitude. It will hit Earth's magnetosphere within hours." Zixloria's skin paled. "Surely a flare of that strength will devastate this world. We must evacuate these people immediately." But as they entered the bunker and Rodriguez sealed the massive doors behind them, The Secretary General's calm demeanor never wavered. "Don't worry, Ambassador. This isn't our first rodeo with extreme space weather. Our planetary defense grid will handle it." The aliens exchanged bewildered looks. This fragile-looking species, living on a planet that seemed designed to kill them, spoke of hurricanes and solar flares as mere inconveniences. As alarms blared and humans rushed to their emergency stations with practiced efficiency, Zixloria realized that the Galactic Council's first contact mission had just become far more complex than anyone could have anticipated. They had come to Earth expecting to find survivors on a death world. Instead, they were faced with a species that had not just survived, but thrived in conditions that would have wiped out most civilizations in the known galaxy. The true nature of humanity and the secrets of Earth were only beginning to reveal themselves, and Zixloria had a feeling that the Galactic Council was in for more than a few surprises. The galactic threat emerges. As the hurricane raged outside and news of the incoming solar flare spread through the bunker, Ambassador Zixloria found herself in a state of constant amazement. The humans around her moved with purpose and calm, their faces showing determination rather than fear. Secretary General Rodriguez led the alien delegation to a large, circular room deep within the complex. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing real-time data on both the hurricane and the approaching solar event. "Welcome to Earth's Global Defense and Disaster Response Center," Rodriguez said, her voice filled with pride. "From here, we coordinate our efforts against whatever the universe throws at us." Cretal's tentacles twitched nervously. "Forgive me, Secretary General, but how can you possibly defend against a solar flare of this magnitude? The energy output alone would overwhelm most planetary shields we've encountered." A tall, dark-skinned man in a lab coat stepped forward. Dr. Kwesi Okoro, chief scientist of the GDDRC. He introduced himself. "To answer your question, we don't just have shields. We have a multi-layered defense system that not only protects us, but harnesses the energy of such events." As Dr. Okoro began explaining the intricacies of Earth's magnetosphere amplifiers and ionospheric resonance arrays, Zixloria's communicator chirped urgently. The ambassador excused herself and stepped aside to take the call. "Ambassador," the voice of the Harmonic Convergence's first officer crackled through. "We've detected multiple unidentified vessels entering the system at high speed. They're not responding to hails, and their energy signatures match. They match the Ravagers." Zixloria's heart sank. The Ravagers were a scourge on the galaxy, a nomadic race of conquerors who swept through star systems like a plague, stripping planets of resources and enslaving populations. They were the very reason the Galactic Council had been formed centuries ago. "Understood," Zixloria replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maintain observation and alert the Council. We'll inform the humans." As she turned back to the group, she found all eyes on her. Rodriguez's expression had hardened. "I take it we have more company, Ambassador." Zixloria nodded gravely. "I'm afraid so, Secretary General. The hostile force known as the Ravagers has entered your system. They are extremely dangerous and technologically advanced. I recommend immediate evacuation of your population centers." To her surprise, Rodriguez smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile, but one that spoke of grim determination. "With all due respect, Ambassador, we don't run from fights. Dr. Okoro, initiate Protocol Omega. General Zhang, you have a green light." The room burst into action. Dr. Okoro's fingers flew over holographic controls, while a stern-looking woman in a military uniform, presumably General Zhang, began barking orders into a communications device. "What's Protocol Omega?" Cretal asked, his voice tinged with both fear and curiosity. Rodriguez turned to the aliens, her eyes blazing with fierce pride. "It's our response to extraterrestrial threats. We've been preparing for this day since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. The Ravagers are about to learn why Earth is called a death world, and it's not just because of our environment." Zixloria and Cretal watched in awe as the holographic displays shifted, showing a planet-wide mobilization unlike anything they had ever seen. Hidden silos opened in deserts and mountains, releasing swarms of sleek spacecraft. Massive cannons emerged from the ocean depths, their barrels aimed at the sky. And in orbit, satellites that had appeared passive and primitive just moments ago transformed, revealing advanced weapon systems and shield generators. But how? Zixloria stammered. Our surveys showed no signs of this level of technology. Dr. Okoro chuckled. We've had a lot of practice hiding our capabilities, Ambassador. When you live on a world that constantly tries to kill you, you learn to be prepared for anything, including the day the stars might try to kill you too. As they watched, the incoming solar flare struck Earth's outermost defenses. But instead of causing devastation, the massive energy was captured, channeled, and redirected. The planet's shields glowed with power, and suddenly every weapon and spacecraft in Earth's arsenal surged with incredible energy. Now, General Zhang said, her voice cold and determined, we show these Ravagers why you don't mess with the Deathworld. The first shots were fired as the Ravager fleet entered extreme weapons range. To the shock of the Galactic Council members, Earth's weapons tore through the Ravagers' advanced shields like they were tissue paper. The energy harnessed from the solar flare had amplified their firepower beyond anything the aliens had ever witnessed. But the Ravagers were not easily defeated. They returned fire, their own formidable weapons striking Earth's shields with tremendous force. The planet shook, and for a moment, Zixloria feared that even humanity's incredible preparations might not be enough. Then something unexpected happened. As the Ravagers pressed their attack, the hurricane that had been raging over New York suddenly changed course. It moved with unnatural speed and purpose, engulfing several Ravager ships that had entered the atmosphere. The alien vessels, mighty as they were, found themselves torn apart by winds and lightning that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Weather control technology, Rodriguez explained, noting the aliens' shocked expressions. Another trick we picked up from living on this unforgiving world. We don't just survive our storms, Ambassador, we tame them. As the battle raged on, Zixloria and Cretal watched in stunned silence. The humans, these inhabitants of a supposed death world, were not just holding their own against one of the galaxy's most feared forces. They were winning. In that moment, Zixloria realized that the Galactic Council's understanding of strength and resilience was about to be radically redefined. Earth was indeed a death world, but not for the reasons they had initially thought. It was a death world because it forged its inhabitants into a force that death itself seemed to fear. The Ravagers were about to learn this lesson the hard way, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Earth's unexpected defense. The battle raged on in Earth's orbit and upper atmosphere, a spectacle of light and destruction that would have been beautiful if it weren't so terrifying. Ambassador Zixloria and Captain Cretal watched in awe as humanity's forces, energized by the captured solar flare, continued to push back against the Ravager fleet. Incredible, Cretal murmured, his tentacles writhing in agitation. I've never seen anyone stand against the Ravagers like this, let alone drive them back. Secretary General Rodriguez allowed herself a small, grim smile. We're just getting started, Captain. Dr. Okoro, status report on Project Gaia. The scientist's fingers danced across his holographic interface. All systems green, Madam Secretary. We're ready to deploy on your command. Rodriguez nodded. Do it. Zixloria's translator struggled with the term. Project Gaia. What is that? As if in answer to her question, the holographic display zoomed out, showing the entire planet. Suddenly, points of light began to appear all over the globe, pulsing in perfect synchronization. Behold, Dr. Okoro said, his voice filled with pride, the true power of a death world. The pulsing lights grew stronger, and then, to the alien's shock, the entire planet seemed to shimmer. It was as if the very crust of the earth was coming alive. "You see," Rodriguez explained, her eyes fixed on the display. "When you live on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn to adapt. But we went a step further. We didn't just adapt to our world. We formed a symbiosis with it." As she spoke, massive tendrils of energy erupted from the planet's surface, reaching into space. They moved with eerie intelligence, weaving between Earth's defenders and lashing out at the Ravager ships. Where they struck, the alien vessels simply disintegrated. Cretel's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible. What kind of weapon is this?" Dr. Okoro chuckled. "It's not a weapon, Captain. At least, not in the way you're thinking. Project Gaia is the culmination of centuries of research into Earth's geomagnetic field, tectonic energies, and biosphere. We've essentially turned our entire planet into a living defense system." Zixloria watched as the energy tendrils, guided by human operators, systematically dismantled the Ravager fleet. But the power required for something like this, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. "That's the beauty of it," Rodriguez said. "The power comes from Earth itself. Every earthquake, every volcano, every storm. They're all part of the system now. The more the Ravagers attack, the more energy we have to fight back." As the battle continued, the Ravagers seemed to realize that they were outmatched. Their remaining ships began to retreat, breaking orbit and fleeing towards the outer solar system. But Earth wasn't done with them yet. General Zhang stepped forward, her face set in grim determination. "Madam Secretary, permission to execute Operation Longbow." Rodriguez hesitated for just a moment before nodding. "Granted. Show our unwelcome guests the full extent of our reach." The holographic display shifted again, this time showing the entire solar system. To the aliens' surprise, objects throughout the system, asteroids, comets, and what appeared to be hidden bases on various moons, suddenly came to life. "You've weaponized your entire star system," Zixloria breathed, her voice a mixture of awe and fear. Zhang nodded. "Humanity has always looked to the stars, Ambassador. We knew that one day we'd need to defend not just our world, but our entire cosmic neighborhood." The fleeing Ravager ships found themselves caught in a crossfire as weapons platforms activated across the solar system. Asteroids moved with impossible precision, smashing into the alien vessels or herding them into killing zones. Within minutes, the once mighty Ravager fleet was reduced to scattered debris. As the last enemy ship winked out of existence, a cheer went up from the human operators in the command center. But Zixloria noticed that Rodriguez, Zhang, and Okoro remained tense. "It's not over, is it?" she asked quietly. Rodriguez shook her head. "No, it's not. The Ravagers never attack without a backup plan. We've repelled their fleet, but I fear we've only seen the first wave." As if on cue, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. Dr. Okoro's hands flew over his console, his face paling as he read the incoming data. "Madam Secretary," he said, his voice tight with concern, "we're detecting massive energy signatures. They're opening wormholes, dozens of them, all around Earth." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Ravagers weren't retreating. They were calling in reinforcements. And this time, they were bypassing Earth's outer defenses entirely. Zixloria felt a chill run down her spine. She had seen worlds fall to less than this. Even with all their incredible technology and resourcefulness, how could humanity possibly stand against such an overwhelming force? But as she looked around the room, she didn't see fear on the faces of the humans. Instead, she saw determination, focus, and even a glimmer of excitement in some eyes. General Zhang cracked her knuckles, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we get to show our visitors the real reason Earth is called a death world. Dr. Okoro, initiate the Lazarus Protocol. It's time to wake the sleepers." As the command center erupted into a flurry of activity, Zixloria and Cretel exchanged worried glances. They had thought they'd seen the full extent of humanity's capabilities. But it was becoming clear that Earth still had secrets to reveal. Secrets that might just reshape the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The true test of humanity's claim to their Deathworld was about to begin, and the fate of not just Earth, but perhaps the entire Galactic Council hung in the balance. Turning the tide. The command center hummed with tense energy as the Ravager reinforcements poured through the wormholes. Holographic displays showed waves of enemy ships materializing around the planet, their weapons already charging. Ambassador Zixloria's tendrils curled in anxiety. "This is unprecedented," she whispered to Captain Cretal. "I've never seen the Ravagers commit such a large force to a single world." Cretal's skin rippled with worry. Perhaps they recognize the threat humanity poses. But what can these sleepers possibly do against such overwhelming numbers? Their question was about to be answered. Dr. Okoro's fingers flew over his console, initiating complex sequences. "Lazarus Protocol engaged," he announced. "Sleepers awakening in 3, 2, 1. The Earth trembled. At first, Zixloria thought it was from the Ravager's initial barrage hitting the planetary shields. But then she noticed the humans' expectant expressions. Suddenly, the holographic display of Earth transformed. Massive structures began to rise from the oceans. Mountains split open to reveal hidden bases, and the polar ice caps shifted to uncover vast underground complexes. Secretary General Rodriguez turned to the stunned alien diplomats. "Welcome to humanity's last line of defense," she said, her voice filled with grim pride. "The sleepers, our ultimate weapons, hidden in plain sight for centuries." As they watched, enormous humanoid figures emerged from the revealed bases. Some stood miles high, dwarfing cities. Others were smaller but no less impressive, their forms sleek and clearly built for combat. "Are those robots?" Cretal asked, his voice filled with awe. General Zhang shook her head. "Not exactly. The sleepers are a fusion of our most advanced technology and carefully selected human pilots. They're living weapons created to defend Earth against any threat, terrestrial or extraterrestrial." The sleepers moved with impossible grace for their size, engaging the Ravager ships in Earth's atmosphere and low orbit. Their weapons, a mix of advanced energy beams, kinetic launchers, and systems the aliens couldn't even begin to comprehend, tore through the enemy fleet. But the Ravagers were not easily defeated. They concentrated their fire on the larger sleepers, and one of the colossal defenders stumbled, its chest cavity blown open by a concentrated energy blast. Zixloria gasped, expecting to see the massive construct fall. Instead, to her shock, the wound began to close, the metal and organic components knitting themselves back together. "Self-repair capabilities," Dr. Okoro explained, noting her surprise. "Inspired by our world's own resilience, Earth heals itself from the wounds we inflict upon it. We built our defenders to do the same." The battle raged on, with the sleepers gradually pushing back the Ravager forces. But for every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The wormholes continued to spew forth reinforcements, and even Earth's miraculous defenders were beginning to show signs of strain. "We need to close those wormholes," Rodriguez said, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Dr. Okoro, what's the status on the Mobius device?" The scientist's eyes widened. "Madam Secretary, the Mobius device is still highly experimental. The risks are less than the risk of losing this battle." Rodriguez cut him off. "Prepare it for deployment." As Okoro reluctantly complied, Zixloria stepped forward. "Excuse me, but what is this Mobius device?" Rodriguez sighed. "It's our attempt to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. In theory, it should allow us to close the wormholes and prevent the Ravagers from bringing in more reinforcements. But such technology is beyond even the most advanced races in the Galactic Council," Cretal protested. "The energy requirements alone are substantial." Zhang finished for him. "That's why we've been hesitant to use it. But desperate times call for desperate measures. On the main screen, they watched as a sleek, almost organic-looking satellite detached itself from one of the orbital defense platforms. It moved towards the nearest cluster of wormholes, pulsing with an eerie, otherworldly energy. Mobius device in position, Okoro reported. Initiating space-time, fold in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, reality itself appeared to ripple around the device. The wormholes began to distort, their edges wavering like mirages in a desert. "It's working," Okoro exclaimed. But his triumph was short-lived. Alarms blared across his console. "Wait, no. The energy feedback is too strong. The device is overloading." The Mobius device flared brilliantly, and for a split second, Zixloria thought she saw something in the distorted space around it. Vast, incomprehensible shapes that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Then, with a silent flash, the device disappeared, along with a significant chunk of the Ravager fleet and several of the wormholes. What just happened?" Kretal asked, his tentacles twitching in agitation. Okoro's face was pale as he studied the readings. We may have inadvertently opened a portal to another dimension, one that doesn't play by the same rules of physics as ours." Rodriguez's expression was grim. "And let me guess, that dimension didn't appreciate the intrusion." Before Okoro could respond, new alarms sounded. The remaining wormholes were fluctuating wildly, and the Ravager ships still in normal space were behaving erratically, as if their systems were malfunctioning. "Unknown energy signatures detected," one of the operators called out. They're coming through the wormholes." All eyes turned to the main display as new entities emerged from the destabilized portals. They defied easy description, shifting masses of tentacles and impossible geometries that hurt the mind to look upon directly. "Oh no," Zixloria breathed. "What have we done?" Rodriguez's jaw set in determination. "We've changed the rules of engagement. Now it's not just humanity against the Ravagers. It's our entire reality at stake." She turned to Zhang and Okoro. "Prepare our forces for multi-dimensional combat. It's time to show these invaders, all of them, why Earth isn't just a death world for us, but for anything that threatens our existence." As the command center erupted into frantic activity, Zixloria realized that the true test of humanity's resilience was just beginning. The battle for Earth had become a battle for the very fabric of reality itself, and the outcome would determine the fate of not just this world, but countless others across the cosmos. The final confrontation was at hand, and the galaxy held its breath. A new era for humanity. The command center of Earth's Global Defense and Disaster Response Center had become a maelstrom of activity. Holographic displays flickered with images that defied comprehension. Ravager ships locked in combat with Earth's sleepers, while vast, indescribable entities from the newly opened dimension writhed through the battlefield. Ambassador Zixloria and Captain Kretal watched in stunned silence as humanity faced not one, but two alien threats simultaneously. The fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Secretary General Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. "Status report." Dr. Okoro's fingers danced across his console. "The good news is that the interdimensional entities seem to be attacking the Ravagers as much as us. The bad news is that our weapons are having limited effect on these new hostiles." General Zhang nodded grimly. "We need a new strategy, and fast. Our sleepers are holding their own against the Ravagers, but these new threats—" She gestured at the writhing forms on the display. Rodriguez turned to the alien diplomats. "Ambassador, Captain, I know we've already asked much of you, but we need the Galactic Council's help. Can you contact your ship?" Zixloria nodded, her tendrils waving with determination. "Of course. The harmonic convergence stands ready to assist." As Zixloria relayed the situation to her ship, Dr. Okoro's eyes suddenly widened. "Wait a moment. I'm detecting a pattern in the interdimensional entity's energy signatures. It's similar to, Madam Secretary, I have an idea, but it's risky. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. At this point, Doctor, risky is all we have. What's your plan? Hokoro took a deep breath. We repurpose Project Gaia. Instead of using Earth's energy as a weapon, we use it as a beacon, a lighthouse in the dimensional storm, if you will. We might be able to guide these entities back to their own realm. And the Ravagers? Zhang asked. A grim smile played across Okoro's lips. With luck, they'll get caught in the undertow. Rodriguez nodded. Do it. As Okoro and his team worked feverishly to recalibrate Project Gaia, the battle outside reached a fever pitch. The sleepers fought with unprecedented ferocity, their human pilots pushing the massive constructs to their limits. The harmonic convergence, along with other Galactic Council ships that had responded to Zixloria's call, added their firepower to Earth's defenses. Project Gaia recalibrated. Okoro announced, initiating dimensional beacon in 3, 2, 1. The entire planet seemed to hum with power. Streams of energy, visible even from space, erupted from key points across Earth's surface. They intertwined, forming a vast, pulsing network that enveloped the entire world. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first but with increasing speed, the interdimensional entities began to move. They flowed towards the energy streams, drawn by some force that even Okoro didn't fully understand. It's working, Zhang exclaimed. They're being pulled back through the wormholes. But the Ravagers, realizing their allies were retreating, launched a desperate final assault. Their remaining ships concentrated fire on Earth's major cities, attempting to break through the planetary shields. Rodriguez's face hardened. Not on my watch. Dr. Okoro, full power to Project Gaia. General Zhang, coordinate with the sleepers for a final push. Ambassador Zixloria, please ask your ships to focus on protecting our orbital platforms. As the orders were carried out, Earth's energy output surged to unprecedented levels. The dimensional beacon intensified, its pull becoming irresistible. The interdimensional entities were swept away, back through the fluctuating wormholes. And in their wake, they dragged hundreds of Ravager ships, the alien vessels helpless against the cosmic tide. Within minutes, the skies above Earth were clear of all but human craft and their Galactic Council allies. A cheer went up from the command center, quickly spreading across the globe as news of the victory spread. As the immediate threat passed, Rodriguez turned to Zixloria and Cretel, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and pride. Well, Ambassador, I believe this concludes our first contact. Not quite what any of us expected, I imagine. Zixloria's multifaceted eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of deep respect in her species. Secretary General, I think I speak for the entire Galactic Council when I say that humanity has more than proven itself today. Your world may indeed be a death world, but not for the reasons we initially thought. Cretel nodded in agreement. Your adaptability, your ingenuity, your sheer determination. These are qualities that will be invaluable to the Council. That is, he added hesitantly, if you still wish to join us after all this. Rodriguez smiled, extending her hand to the alien diplomats. Captain, Ambassador, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Humanity has long dreamed of reaching the stars. We'd be honored to join the Galactic Council as equals. As Zixloria and Cretel shook hands with Rodriguez, sealing the historic moment, Dr. Okoro cleared his throat. Excuse me, but there's something you should see. All eyes turned to the main display, which showed a view of Earth from orbit. The planet was still enveloped in the glowing network of Project Gaia's energy, but now, that energy was changing, shifting into new patterns. It's as if, Okoro said, his voice filled with wonder, the planet itself is evolving, adapting to its new role in the galaxy. Zhang nodded. A death world no longer. Now, it's a guardian world, a bastion against threats from this dimension or any other. As they watched, Earth pulsed with a new kind of power, not the harsh, unforgiving force of a death world, but the protective, nurturing energy of a planet that had faced the ultimate test and emerged stronger. Zix Loria turned to Rodriguez, her voice solemn. Secretary General, I believe the galaxy is about to enter a new era, and humanity, it seems, will be leading the way. Rodriguez smiled, her gaze fixed on the image of Earth, their home, their fortress, and now their gateway to the stars. Well then, she said, we'd better get started. We have a lot of work to do. As the sun rose over a battle-scarred but unbroken Earth, humanity took its first steps into a larger universe. They carried with them the lessons of their Deathworld, resilience, adaptability, and an unyielding spirit. And the galaxy, for better or worse, would never be the same again. The day Earth joined the Galactic Council was the day the Council truly became galactic. For in humanity, they had found not just allies, but teachers, beings forged in the crucible of a death world, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw their way. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the remnants of the Ravager fleet limped away, carrying with them a warning for any who would threaten Earth or its allies. Beware the Deathworlders, for they have made death itself retreat. The cosmic stage was set, and humanity was ready to play its part. The adventure was just beginning.